Live, ma'am. Please carry on.
Namaste and a very good evening to all. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you on this very special day, World Heritage Day 2021. 2021 के वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज डे का थीम इस बार है कॉम्प्लेक्स पास्ट एंड डाइवर्स फ्यूचर और इसकी शुरुआत 1982 में यूनेस्को की एक जनरल कॉन्फ्रेंस के तहत की गई थी और उसके बाद सारी दुनिया में 18 अप्रैल को मनाया जाता है एज वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज डे। जैसे कि किसी भी जन्मदिन की बात होती है, इसी तरह से ये भी एक जन्मदिन की तरह है। हमने अपनी धरोहर और विरासत को बनाए रखने का तो काम रोज ही करना होता है, पर एक दिन को चिन्हित किया गया है ताकि उस दिन हम ज़्यादा इस बात पे फोकस रखें और इस बात को याद रखें कि किसी भी सभ्यता के लिए अगर उसे आगे बढ़ना है, तो उसे अपने इतिहास और अपनी धरोहर को साथ लेकर ही चलना होगा। आज इस सेशन में it is our privilege to have with us our Honorable Minister, Shri Prahlad Singh Patel ji. Namaskar, sir. He is the Union Minister for Tourism and Culture. And thank you, sir, for joining us and blessing us. And in the panel today, for a very quick introduction, I shall mention the people with us. Dinesh Patnaik ji, he is the DG ICCR and also a 1990 batch officer of the Indian Foreign Service. Shrimati Shobna Narayan ji, a former civil servant and a Padma Shri awardee, has made a film on Khajuraho Dance of Temples. Madam is joining us from Vienna today. Welcome, ma'am. We have with us Abhay Mangaldas, who is the founder of the House of MG in Ahmedabad and a huge force behind Ahmedabad's certification as India's first UNESCO heritage city. हर्षवर्धन हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं बॉम्बे से. He works with communities in Bombay and generates jobs related to tourism. शैलजा कटोच जी, ये आती हैं प्रिंसली स्टेट ऑफ सैलाना से एंड अब अपना सारा कार्य पर्यटन से जुड़ा हुआ करती हैं कांगड़ा में और इनको 2018 में इंडियन काउंसिल फॉर यूएन रिलेशंस से अवार्ड मिला है हॉस्पिटैलिटी पर. डॉक्टर श्रुति पोद्दार, ये टीचर है एंशिएंट विजडम and has won the FICCI Award for special contribution to travel and tourism. कृतिका सुब्रमण्यम, ये आर्किटेक्ट है, एंटरप्रेन्योर है, क्लासिकल डांसर है एंड एन एक्सपर्ट ऑन सिद्धा योगा एंड आयुर्वेदा और इस सब चीज़ों का मिश्रण किस तरह से पर्यटन को आगे बढ़ाए इस पे काम करती हैं. Sudakshna Thampi, she is a certified yoga teacher and was part of the Honorable Prime Minister's inaugural International Day of Yoga in 2015. And last but not the least, we have Lavleen Sagar, who runs the initiative Destination Knowledge Center, जिसमें वो यंग एक्सप्लोरर्स को इस चीज़ की कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की तरफ काम करती हैं कि उनको किस तरह से व्यवसाय में जोड़ा जाए पर्यटन के. तो बहुत अच्छा सर पैनल है आज हमारे साथ, जो लोग अपनी धरोहर को लेकर पर्यटन में किस तरह से काम किया जाए इससे जुड़े हुए हैं. आज हमारे लिए एक और बहुत ही शुभ कार्य है हमारे सामने, जिसके लिए हम रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे माननीय मंत्री जी से कि वो इनॉग्रेट करेंगे ऑनलाइन एग्जीबिशन ऑन रामायण. It has been curated and developed by the National Museum, New Delhi, in a bilingual format, English and Hindi. It is the very first online exhibition on Ramayan and it shall be available worldwide viewing. We will, of course, post the address later, but it is available and it can be seen. What is very special about this exhibition is that it showcases 49 miniature paintings of the different art forms of India. So there are the Vasholi, Chamba, Mandi, the Rajasthani styles are there. So you must please visit this after a formal inauguration is done by Honorable Minister today. The National Museum, New Delhi has unfolded a new dimension in museum experience by developing the online 3D virtual exhibitions. So, sir, with your permission, can we inaugurate the exhibition? Ji, sir. So, we inaugurate it, please.
Yes.
धन्यवाद। इसका जो लिंक है वो हम अपनी वेबसाइट पे भी डालेंगे। आप मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर के वेबसाइट पर भी देख सकते हैं, https://nm नेशनल म्यूजियम virtual.in/virtual_tour/Ramayana। So we request everyone who has joined in कि इसको आप आराम से बाद में देखिए। ये अब लाइव है, आप इसे कभी भी कहीं पर भी बैठकर देख सकते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। इस उपलक्ष्य पर माननीय मंत्री जी से रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि वो अपना इनॉग्रल एड्रेस सबके समक्ष रखें।
तो दोनों को साथ करेंगे ना?
जी सर।
अपना हमारी एडिशनल डीजी श्री उपेंद्र बराड़ जी, सौभाग्य की बात है कि डीजी आईसीसीआर श्री दिनेश के पटनायक जी, हम सबके लिए गर्व की बात है कि डॉक्टर शोभना नारायण जी भी इस चर्चा में शामिल है। अभय मंगल दास जी, श्री हर्षवर्धन जी, डॉक्टर श्रुति पोद्दार जी, सुधा कृष्णा थापी जी, शैलजा कटोच जी, कृतिका सुब्रमण्यम जी, लवनीन सागर जी। पहले तो मैं आप सबको विश्व विरासत दिवस की शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और मुझे लगता है कि भारत में इस पर चर्चा जिस गंभीरता से होनी चाहिए और जो तैयारियां हमको करनी चाहिए, मैं मानता हूं कि 2021 में ये एक अच्छी शुरुआत हुई, क्योंकि हमको ये सबसे पहले ये तय करना होगा कि हमारी नई पीढ़ी इस चुनौती को अपने हाथ में लेती है या नहीं, उसका स्वीकार करना। क्योंकि ये सच है कि हमारी हजारों साल पुरानी परंपराएं हैं और जैसा आपने बताया कि अभी तो 39 वर्ष ही हुए हैं इस विश्व विरासत दिवस को मनाने के, उसकी तुलना में जो हमारा अपना विरासत का कालखंड है या उसकी गणना है, वो अभी भी एक उलझी हुई गुत्थी है। और इसमें मैं मानता हूं कि जब से भी हम इन विश्व स्तरीय उपाधियों से अपने आप को जोड़ते रहे हैं, मेरा मत है कि पहले से ही हमारे पास में जो प्रचुर मात्रा में जो हमारी विरासत हमारे पास थी, उसको महत्व नहीं मिला। बल्कि मैं ये कहूंगा कि शायद कहीं ना कहीं किसी कोने में, मैं उस शब्द का उपयोग कर रहा हूं जो शायद थोड़ा कड़ा है, भेदभाव हुआ है, ऐसा मैं महसूस करता हूं। क्योंकि मैं खुद उस विषय से जुड़ा हुआ एक छात्र भी रहा हूं और इस नाते मैं जिम्मेदारी के साथ वर्तमान में देश के संस्कृति मंत्री होने के नाते जब मैं अपनी विरासतों को देखता हूं तो मुझे लगता है कि शायद हमारे साथ न्याय नहीं हुआ। मैं ब्राजील भी गया था, वहां पर भी भारत से गई हुई प्रतिमाएं में को मैंने देखा है, लोग उन्हें स्वीकारते हैं। और मुझे लगता है जो सबसे अहम बात है कि ईसा पूर्व के अनेक प्रमाण हमारे पास में मौजूद है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी हमको वह स्थान नहीं मिला। इस पर हम सबको मिलकर काम करना होगा। और मैं इस संदर्भ में इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि यहाँ पर डीजी आईसीसीआर भी मौजूद है और जो पैनल यहाँ पर है और पैनल उन विषयों का जानकार है, और इस नाते मैं कहूंगा कि इस चुनौती को हमें स्वीकार करना चाहिए, बजाय हम किसी पर आरोप लगाएं, क्योंकि कमियां हमारे पक्ष में भी है जिनको मैं आगे कहना चाहता हूँ। हजारों साल पुराने हमारे मंदिर हैं जहां पर कहीं भी मशीन का उपयोग नहीं हुआ, पूरी तरह से कला, विज्ञान और बाकी जो पैमाने थे वो रीतियों को भी अपना स्थान देते थे, वो साधकों को भी अपना स्थान देते थे, वो जीवन शैली को भी वहां उद्धृत करते थे। उनकी बारीकियों के बारे में आज भी दुनिया मानती है कि मशीन से भी उतनी बेहतर तरीके से कढ़ाई या उनकी मूर्ति का निर्माण नहीं हो सकता। लेकिन सवाल सिर्फ मूर्ति के निर्माण का नहीं है, सवाल है कि अगर आप खजुराहो जाते हैं तो देवालय के बाहर के अगर चित्रों को देखते हैं तो वो सिर्फ किसी कामुकता का प्रदर्शन नहीं है, बल्कि उसमें एक बड़ी आध्यात्मिकता है जिनके तालमेल के बारे में कभी शायद हमने सम्मिलित तौर पर नहीं कहा। वो कई बार हमने अपनी छवि को ऐसा प्रस्तुत किया जो शायद जिसका मैं नहीं मानता कि कोई रिलेवेंसी भारतीय संस्कृति में है। और इसलिए मनुष्य द्वारा निर्मित इन देवालयों में, खासकर मंदिरों में, हम दक्षिण भारत के हों चाहे अन्य हों, उनको हम स्थान नहीं दिला पाए। और मुझे लगता है कि बाग बगीचों को स्थान मिल गया, भवनों को और शहरों को स्थान मिल गया, लेकिन ये प्राचीनतम जो कृतियां थी उनको स्थान नहीं मिला। ये हमारे लिए दूसरी चुनौती है। तीसरा है कि जो विश्व स्तरीय विरासत है वो हमारे पास इतनी प्रचुर मात्रा में है, ये हमारी कमी मुझे लगती है कि जो हम सबकी, हम सरकार में बैठे हो, सामाजिक क्षेत्र में काम करते हो, अनुसंधान के क्षेत्र में हो, चाहे हम पुरातत्ववेत्ता हो, चाहे इतिहासकार हो, चाहे अन्य किसी ट्रस्ट में काम करने वाले, धार्मिक और सामाजिक गतिविधियां चलाने वाले लोग हों, हमने ऐसे प्रचुरता के कारण वो गंभीरता हमारे भीतर नहीं रही। जैसे सोने का पहाड़ हमारे पास हो तो छोटी मोटी चीजों को हम नजरअंदाज करते हैं, और लोगों के पास में वो उससे भी कमतर टुकड़ा था, उसको शोकेस करके उन्होंने दुनिया को उसमें आकर्षित किया है। मैं उदाहरण इसलिए दे रहा हूँ कि शायद ये लापरवाही हमसे हुई है और उसका दुष्परिणाम भी हमने खूब भोगा है। हम लूटे गए, हम उन प्रतिमाओं को या उन विरासतों को तोड़ने से नहीं बचा पाए, लूटने से नहीं बचा पाए, तोड़ने से नहीं बचा पाए। कई बार हमारे ही लोग उसमें शामिल हुए। ऐसा नहीं हम सिर्फ आक्रांताओं को दोष दें, हम कहीं ना कहीं उस लूटपाट में, उस चोरी चकारी में हमारे लोग भी कई बार लालच के बतौर शामिल हुए हैं। इस सच्चाई को हमें स्वीकार करना होगा, और ये कारण मुझे लगता है कि जो प्रचुर मात्रा में विरासत हमारे पास थी, हम उस कारण से इस गंभीरता से इसे नहीं ले पाए। दूसरा जो गंभीरता हमारे जीवन में मुझे लगती है, जो मैं सभी को कह रहा हूँ, उसमें मैं अपने आप को भी जोड़ता हूँ, कि हम सजाने संवारने के बारे में जो टाइमलाइन होनी चाहिए थी, जो सारणीकरण होना था, उसमें हमने पूरी तरह से गंभीरता दिखाई है। अभी तक जो समृद्ध प्रयास हमारे होने चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर मान लो मैं कहूँ कि मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स हमारे पास में कोई 10,000 साल पुरानी है और उस टाइमलाइन को हम तय नहीं कर पाए। मैं सोच रहा था कि अभी ये नया संवत शुरू होता है, 2078 इस बार प्रारंभ हुआ है, मुझे लगता है। लेकिन जिस विक्रम संवत की हम बात करते हैं, वो विक्रमादित्य कौन थे? वास्तव में चंद्रगुप्त के पहले, बहुत पहले विक्रमादित्य हुए, जहाँ कालिदास उनके नवरत्नों के रूप में थे। लेकिन जो टाइमलाइन है वो कहीं मैच ही नहीं करती है। लेकिन हमने बजाय आरोप तलों के, क्या हम कभी इतिहासकार या पुरातत्ववेत्ता या बाकी जो अनुसंधान करने वाले लोग हैं, क्या हम महीनों सालों का टास्क रख के बैठ नहीं सकते थे? एक बार पहले हम तय करें कि हमारी परंपरागत पीढ़ियों की जो रचना है या जो इतिहास है वो मेल खाता है क्या? हम युगाब्द की चर्चा नहीं करते, जो 5123 बार कंप्लीट हो गए हैं, जो शुरू हुआ है। अब 5000 तक का अगर कोई कैलेंडर हमारे पास में निरंतर जारी है, तो स्वाभाविक है कि जब कैलेंडर बना होगा 5000 साल पहले, तो परंपराएं भी हमारी उतनी ही बेहतर रही होंगी, बेहतर स्थिति में हम रहे होंगे। लेकिन हमने युगाब्द को कभी भी साइंटिफिक तरीके से तराजू पर तोलने का प्रयास नहीं किया, और इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि जो दस्तावेजीकरण है वो शायद हम सबकी पहली चौथी प्राथमिकता मैं मानता हूँ। चुनौती कहूंगा, प्राथमिकता तो हमारी पहली ही होगी। हम चौथी समस्या मानते हैं कि हमारे दस्तावेजीकरण में हम कहीं ना कहीं पीछे रह गए हैं, जो नई पीढ़ी को हमें देना होगा। मुझे लगता है नई पीढ़ी ज्यादा वैज्ञानिक है, ज्यादा उसके पास में संसाधन है। अगर हम उसके सामने चैलेंज को रखेंगे और हम कुछ तथ्य उसके साथ दे देंगे, तो वो लग कर शायद हमको इस बात का समाधान दे पाएंगे। और इसलिए मैं एक उदाहरण देता हूँ कि मैं भी साइंस स्टूडेंट था, लेकिन मैं अपने पुरखों के बारे में नहीं जानता था कि हम कहाँ से माइग्रेट हुए। हमें स्थान पता था, लेकिन मेरे बेटे ने बताया कि वो आज पाकिस्तान की बॉर्डर पर है। हम वहां से माइग्रेट होकर हमारे परिवारजन आए होंगे, और वो पड़ा बुहानी जो था वो बड़ा सामरिक दृष्टि से महत्वपूर्ण था, और सिकंदर के इतिहास के समय तक उसका बड़ा अस्तित्व दिखता है। कि अब कितनी पुरानी बात हो गई है, लेकिन हमें नहीं पता था, लेकिन हमारे बेटे ने उसको गूगल पर या बाकी को देखकर उसको देखा। और इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि चाहे वो ट्रस्ट हो, चाहे वो एनजीओ हो, चाहे सोशल एक्टिविस्ट हो, इन सबको कहीं ना कहीं एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर लाना पड़ेगा। और हम देश के भीतर पहले इस डिबेट को तय करें कि हम चीजों को जब देश के बाहर लेकर जाएं, तो वास्तव में हम तैयारी के साथ में जाए। उदाहरण के लिए योग है, यहाँ पर योग से जुड़े हुए लोग भी, नृत्य है, संगीत है। हम इतने प्राचीन, अगर हमें इसके टाइमलाइन के बारे में बैक होना पड़ेगा, तो हमें ऋषि मुनियों तक ही जाना पड़ेगा, राजा महाराजों तक ही जाना पड़ेगा। और ऐसी स्थिति में हम अपने किसी भी नृत्य, किसी भी संगीत, योगिक क्रिया, पातंजलि की अगर हम कालखंड की बात करेंगे, तो मुझे लगता है कि हम इतने पीछे जाएंगे कि हम कभी पातंजलि के आधार पर योग की परंपराओं को तो आगे ले जा रहे हैं, लेकिन पातंजलि किस कालखंड में हुए इसकी गणना के बारे में अभी भी हम कहीं तय नहीं है। विरासत स्थलों की तुलना में जो वास्तव में व्यक्ति होने चाहिए, संरक्षणकर्ता, पुरातत्ववेत्ता, इतिहासकार, इसकी हमारे पास में इतनी लंबी खाई है कि हम उसको अभी गाइड को बनाने के लिए प्रयासरत हैं, तो अभी हम उसको पूरा नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। लेकिन अगर जब हम कभी विश्व विरासत की बात करते हैं कि हमें डोजियर तैयार करना है, तो हमें पुरातत्ववेत्ता चाहिए, संरक्षणकर्ता चाहिए, इतिहासकार चाहिए, और वो मैकेनिज्म चाहिए जो आज के समय की जरूरत है। ठीक है, दुनिया ने जो पैमाने बनाए हैं, उस पैमाने से हम अपने प्रयास करते रहेंगे। आईसीसीआर हो, विदेश मंत्रालय हो, यूनेस्को में जाकर हम अपनी बातें कहते हैं, लेकिन उसकी जो प्रारंभिक तैयारी होनी चाहिए कि हम अगर एक बार में कहें कि 100 डोजियर हमारे पास में है, भले वो दुनिया में ये तय हो गया, राशनिंग शुरू हो गई है दुनिया के सामने, क्योंकि दुनिया के देशों के पास वास्तव में वो चीजें नहीं है कि वो उतनी प्रचुर मात्रा में दे पाए, लेकिन आपके पास में है। हम ये दबाव आज नहीं कल बना सकते हैं कि दुनिया में जो विश्व विरासतें हैं उनके पैरामीटर्स की तुलना में हमारे पास तो 100 भी पड़े हुए हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये अवसर हमारे सामने आएगा कि हम दुनिया को और बेहतर तरीके से आकर्षित कर पाएंगे। मैं पांडुलिपियों की बात करूं या स्मारकों की बात करूं या हमारे अन्य कल्चर हेरिटेज की मैं बात करूं, वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज की दृष्टि से हमारे पास में वो सब चीजें हैं जो दुनिया में लोगों के पास में नहीं है। मैंने पहले ही उनका उल्लेख किया, इसकी पुनरावृत्ति में करना नहीं चाहता कि नृत्य हो, गायन हो, योग हो, या हमारे देवालय हो, या हमारी पांडुलिपियां हो, हमारे शास्त्र हो। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये चीजें 300-400 वर्ष पहले की तो चीजें ऐसी मिल जाती है। मैं जिस क्षेत्र से आता हूँ वहाँ 8वीं-9वीं शताब्दी की चीजें गांव में मिल जाती हैं, बड़ी आसानी के साथ मिल जाती है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये चीजों पर हमें विचार करना होगा। मैं अंत में इतना ही कहूंगा कि जो आज पैनल है वो पैनल मेरी बात को संकल्प के रूप में लेगा, और हम सब मिलकर, क्या सिर्फ इसी दिन नहीं, हमको अपनी तैयारी के लिए शायद पहले बैठना होगा। एक संस्कृति मंत्री होने के नाते मैं आप सबसे अपील करता हूँ, आप सबसे निवेदन करता हूँ कि एक बार, मुझे लगता है कि मैं कहूँगा रुपिंदर जी से कि हम अपने पुरातत्वविद, ठीक है पर्यटन में पुरातत्ववेत्ता नहीं आते, कल्चर मिनिस्ट्री में आते हैं, लेकिन ये सच है कि अगर हमें पर्यटक को आकर्षित करना है तो दुनिया देखने के लिए आती है संस्कृति, और संस्कृति के इन पैरामीटर्स पर पर्यटन मंत्रालय जब कभी कोई चीज तय करता है तो उसके पास ऑथेंटिसिटी चाहिए। हम बाकी चीजों को नहीं कर सकते, और इसलिए हमें मिला जुला प्रयास करना होगा। हम एक फोरम बनाए, मैं कल्चर मिनिस्ट्री के ऑफिशियल से भी, सेक्रेटरी ऑफिस से भी बात कहूंगा कि हम मिलकर ज्वाइंट एक कोशिश करें, एक लंबा 5 दिन का, 7 दिन का, वर्ष में 3 या 4 बार कोई सब्जेक्ट लेकर, किसी स्थान को लेकर कि हम टाइमलाइन तय करने के लिए बैठेंगे। उसमें इतिहासकार भी होंगे, उसमें आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट भी होंगे, उसमें संरक्षणकर्ता भी होंगे, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं चीजें हमारे पास हैं लेकिन हम उनको दे नहीं पाए। मैं कल्चर मिनिस्टर होने के नाते कह सकता हूँ, हमारा जो साइंस विज्ञान जो हमारा लैब है लखनऊ में, वो मूर्ति जोड़ने की कला में माहिर है, लेकिन आज भी हम जब भी कंजर्वेशन की बात करते हैं तो हम बाहर से किसी टेक्नोलॉजी को लाने की बात करते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि ऐसी चीजों पर, दूसरा, हम टूटी प्रतिमाएं क्यों दिखाएं? ये जो लिविंग मॉन्यूमेंट हमारे क्यों नहीं हो सकते? दुनिया में बहुत सारी जगह है जहां पर हम किसी अपने मॉन्यूमेंट में घुसने नहीं देंगे, हम वहां टूटी प्रतिमाओं को दिखाएंगे। हम किसको दिखाना चाहते हैं? आने वाली पीढ़ी ने को हम ये बताना चाहते हैं इतिहास में कि हमारे देवालयों को तोड़ा गया, तो ठीक है, उसको टूटी हुई प्रतिमा को हम कहीं चित्र के रूप में अलग रख ले, लेकिन हम उनको ठीक क्यों नहीं कर सकते? उस बनाने वाली परंपरा के लोग अभी पीढ़ियों से मौजूद है, और इसलिए मुझे लगता है उसमें कल्चर मिनिस्ट्री भी अपना काम कर रही है। जानकारी के लिए मैंने आपको एक विषय आपके सामने रखा है, पर मैं विश्व विरासत दिवस पर इस विश्वास के साथ आपसे अपनी बात को समाप्त करता हूं कि हम सब, पूरी टीम, नई पीढ़ी को वो चुनौतियां जो मैंने कही हैं आपके सामने, हम उनको देंगे। इसमें से भी बहुत सारे युवा यहाँ मौजूद हैं, मैं उनसे भी ये प्रार्थना करूंगा कि हम इन चुनौतियों को, इस खाई को भरने का काम करें, ताकि जो हमारे पास में विश्व विरासत के रूप में जो चीजें हमारे पास उपलब्ध है, जिन्हें मैं पूरी तरह से विश्व विरासत ही मानता हूँ, भले उनको डेजिग्नेशन ना मिला हो, उन सबको दुनिया के पटल पर पहुंचाकर शायद हम भारत को और भी समृद्धशाली बना सकते हैं विरासत के मामले में। ऐसा विश्वास करते हुए मैं पुनः आप सबको विश्व विरासत दिवस की शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। एक वेबसाइट, हमारा वर्चुअल गैलरी हमारी शुरू हुई है, कोरोना के काल में लोग जाने नहीं पाएंगे, हमने अपने म्यूजियम्स को, हमने अपने ASI के स्मारक को बंद किया है, तो मुझे लगता है घर बैठे देखने का एक अवसर इससे मिलेगा। तो मैं तमाम श्रोताओं से ये कहूँगा कि इसको आप साइट को डाउनलोड करिए, मैं भी उसको ट्वीट करूँगा, और उसके बाद में आप देखें और अपनी राय दें। मैं नहीं कहता कि ये पूरी तरह से बेहतर होगा, हो सकता है कि बहुत सारे तकनीक से जुड़े लोग उसमें जो सलाह देंगे, तो मैं उन सबसे सलाह की भी अपेक्षा करता हूँ। आपकी कोई भी सलाह निश्चित रूप से मैं सलाह के रूप में मंत्रालय उसे मानेगा। मैं इस अवसर पर नेशनल म्यूजियम के तमाम लोगों को शुभकामनाएं और बधाई देते हुए अपनी बात को यहाँ समाप्त करता हूँ। आप सबका भी हृदय से धन्यवाद करते हुए बात को समाप्त करता हूँ। वंदे मातरम।
धन्यवाद सर। बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण बातें सर के इनॉग्रल एड्रेस से निकलकर आई हैं पूरे पैनल के लिए, और पैनल इन सब बातों को संकल्प के रूप में लेगा, इसका मुझे विश्वास है सर, क्योंकि जो लोग यहाँ जुड़े हैं सब पूरी अपनी भावना से जुड़े हुए हैं इस पूरे परिश्रम में कि भारत का जो इतना वाइड स्प्रेड धरोहर है, और अगर हम उसकी टेंजिबल और इंटेंजिबल में गिनती करने लग जाएं तो शायद गिनती खत्म हो जाएगी, इतनी ज्यादा धरोहर है। पर उसको आगे चलकर कैसे संजोना है, कैसे लेकर जाना है दुनिया के सामने, और पर्टिकुलरली सिर्फ अपने ही लोगों के दरमियान ना रह जाए, और देश के बाहर जब जाएं तो कैसे लेकर जाएं, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है। तो इस पॉइंट पर मैं आप सबके सामने दिनेश पटनायक हैं, हमारे DG इंडियन काउंसिल फॉर कल्चरल रिलेशंस ICCR जिसे हम जानते हैं, 1990 बैच के इंडियन फॉरेन सर्विस ऑफिसर हैं, और बहुत सी अलग अलग देशों में अपने देश का प्रतिनिधित्व करते आए हैं। इनको बुलाना चाहूंगी इस विषय पर कि दिनेश, व्हाट इज योर व्यू, व्हाट इज इट दैट वी नीड टू डू एज अ कंट्री, और किस तरह से हमें अपनी धरोहर को दिखाना और दर्शाना चाहिए आने वाले समय में।
Thank you, Rupinder. Thank you very much. प्रहलाद जी, नमस्कार. It was wonderful hearing you. आपने बहुत पते की बात बोली हुई है. There are a lot of things which we need to take from there. We all understand how important heritage tourism is, how important heritage is, how important tourism is, and how both of them together are so important for us, not only for economy, jobs, livelihood, but also for our national identity. To a large extent, our national identity comes from our cultural heritage. So all this, we know how important it is. And this last year has been very difficult with COVID coming. There are a lot of plans that I know Prahlad ji had, ICCR had, Ministry of Culture had, Ministry of Tourism had. There were a lot of plans which had been put in place, but all had to be shelved because of COVID. But in a way, it also gave us time to reflect on what we can do better. What is it that we can do in a better manner? And there's always hope. At the end of Pandora's box, there's always hope left. And despite all the ills that come, we at least have a hope at the end that when things come back to normal, all this reflection, all these plans that we have will come to fruition one day. But I'm going to go on a different path because this is World Heritage today. And what is heritage? Heritage is essentially what is given down to us from previous generations, which we keep, modify, and pass on to the next generation. And it is not just property or money. It's about culture, value, traditions, your monuments. And, there are a million things in heritage, and all of you know it. I don't have to go into what that is. But we get into a question of what is the world heritage? What is my heritage? What is your heritage? We always talk about this. This is my heritage. That is your heritage. That is my cultural heritage. That is your cultural heritage. Now, here we have always looked at it in terms of identity. Your national identity is fixed with your national cultural heritage. But is it truly like that? Because when we look at it closely, look at the Mona Lisa, for example. The painting Mona Lisa. It was painted by an Italian artist, Leonardo da Vinci, for a French monarch, and is lying in France today. So whom does it belong to? Whose cultural heritage is the Mona Lisa? Is it a French cultural heritage or is it an Italian cultural heritage? Similarly, if you look at the Angkor Wat in Cambodia, built by Indian kings in the past, is it an Indian heritage? Is it a Cambodian heritage? Borobudur, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, now in Pakistan, but an Indian heritage. Whose heritage it is? These are things we always keep on wondering about. Or even look at intangible heritage. Simple thing like the harmonium. All of you are musicians. Many of you know musicians. Harmonium is an intrinsic part of every Indian musical gathering. But is it Indian? No, it came from France. Same with the santoor. We look at the santoor. Where did the santoor came? It came from Iran, from the Central Asia. Or the flamenco dance in Spain. The Spanish countries talk about flamenco dance. Where did it come from? It was taken by the gypsies, the Romas from India to there. It actually came from Kathak to a large extent. Or if you look at Ramayana, Prahlad ji has just released the Ramayana series on the internet, the exhibition, and I'm hopeful that we'll do more such. But Ramayana, if you look at Ramayana in Southeast Asia, who does it belong to? They think it is their Ramayana. There's a Cambodian Ramayana, there's Indonesian Ramayana, there's a Thailand Ramayana. So what ultimately, when you look at it closely, you realize the World Heritage is not mine or yours, it's ours, it's everybody's. We all have this. That's the reason last year the World Heritage Council had actually done the World Heritage Day as, what was it? Shared culture, shared heritage, and shared responsibility. I mean, that's what it is. All of us share the same heritage, the same culture, the same responsibility. And it is all of our responsibility to make sure that this is done. And this is a public good. You know, this is something which is for everybody. I'll tell you a small story of when Pliny the Elder wrote about it. When, you know, during the time of the Greeks, there was this great statue which was put up by the Greek sculptor Lysippos in front of the thermal baths. Now the Emperor Tiberius liked it so much, he shifted the statue to his own personal palace so that he could watch it. The Romans rose up and protested so much that the statue had to be brought back because it was for everybody. It was not for only one person to watch. This has been always throughout history. We cannot keep things for ourselves. We have to share with everybody. And that is why ICCR was also formed many years ago. The whole idea was to create mutual understanding. Heritage is a very important part which makes us understand how cultural diversity in the world works and how we need to share, how we need to exchange, how do we need to make each other understand so that there is mutual understanding and cultural diplomacy and people of the world get together in one frame. That is the whole essence of heritage. We have somehow forgotten about it and we always keep on saying my heritage, your heritage. But I'm sure that if we all work together, even within India, I mean, I sometimes keep on wondering how within India we manage with so many different states. For example, like this COVID situation has made us realize that while we depend only on 11 million foreign tourists every year, out of which about 8 million are returning Indians or business people, there are 300 million Indians traveling within the country. And our heritage is for the 300 million Indians. How many Biharis go to Kerala to see, or how many Keralites go to Northeast, or how many Tamil Nadu people go to Jammu and Kashmir? But thankfully, COVID has made us realize that unless we get aware of our own heritage will be lost. There are two parts of it. One is the management part, and the one is to be able to get our people to see our own heritage. And this is where I take up from where Prahlad ji said about the Nai Pidi, the new generation, the youth. We have to engage the youth. Somehow, our system has become such a way that our youth are not involved in the heritage of our country. I mean, look at today, the cultures. I look at the arts and culture. The arts and culture used to be a place where used to be three kinds of people who used to support the arts and culture in any country in the world. It used to be the emperor, the big business houses, and the common people who used to go and watch it, who used to pay a dime or a little penny to go and see the thing. So these three were the people who used to support. Where is the support now? The emperor has been replaced by the state, which does as much as it can, but all of us know that the state is limited. The big business houses have moved to a more, Hollywood-based, Bollywood-based thing rather than more art and culture. And the common people, we have not actually made any effort to reach out to them. So essentially what has happened in our world, we have let art and culture just meander because the young people are not interested, because we don't teach them from the beginning. You look at any place, anything that you want to teach, the language and the vocabulary has to be taught. The children are taught in school about A, B, C, D, about everything else. But we don't teach them the language and vocabulary of our art and culture, of our heritage. So there are many things we can do. But today I will just talk about what we can do with the youth, because the youth for me is the most important. Unless we focus, like Prahlad ji said, on the Nai Pidi, on the new generation, who are technologically bright, who we really don't need to drag to our places to show. We can show them online, we can do everything, but we need to produce content for them. This youth is very important. And what can we do? There are many ways we can target the youth. One is first education. And I have always believed, and I still am strongly believe, that our education system needs a revamp where art and culture and heritage has to be an intrinsic part of our curriculum. Every child should learn one musical art or music or dance or theater or painting or anything, just one thing. This has two effects. One is an economic effect. Look at the number of instruments that will be sold in the country if every child learns it has an economic effect. How much painting will be done? Every child in every school, if it learns one piece of art, has a huge economic effect. Apart from that, the child also learns how to appreciate art. So which means you're creating the audience of the future. This is the same young people who, when they understand art, will tomorrow go to the places to watch art, to see the shows, and to understand what they're seeing. So unless you put culture as an education in your educational system, you are actually creating a future which is blank. The second is, where do the children go to learn this? One is the schools, but a very important part of a child's growing up are museums. Museums in every country are your repository of your heritage. Every city, town, community should have museums which show you your heritage of your country. Children should be going there every month from their schools as school trips to see museum as to what has happened, what is our shared cultural heritage. This is important because unless we do this, our children will grow up without knowing. They will have a distorted view. They will have a social media view of what our cultural heritage is. And that is what we need to avoid. The third is jobs. I mean, jobs, manpower. You see, our heritage management is today a very specialized field. Heritage management is no more that anybody passes with history or geography or science or technology can just do heritage management. Heritage management is a very specialized field. We need to create jobs. Look at what's happened. We have ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, today has a manpower issue. Archaeological Survey of India has more than 3,684 institutes of national importance. Only 37 of them are on the World Heritage List because we do not have people to produce the documents that is needed to put it in the UN. Our sites are unable to be managed because we do not have people to manage it. Ministry of External Affairs does a whole lot of renovation and restoration of artifacts and temples across the world. What is the biggest problem we face when we go to ASI? They don't have people to send abroad. Now, why in a country of 1.3 billion, we should not have a lack of people? I mean, that's the last thing we should be lacking. But we lack people because we have not focused on creating jobs for this. All of our jobs, even engineers or others, go for doing things which are not related to heritage or culture. But we need to do that. The fourth thing which I wanted to talk about is creating cultural spaces. What do we do when we do heritage management? We look at monuments. We don't look at the city. When we do, we say one monument. There is one Jaipur mein ek monument, idhar ek monument. The whole city is what you need to create. Every city should have a cultural place. It is a cultural space that you need to create. Every city should have a cultural street, a cultural area where the culture of the city can be seen on the streets, people walking, bookshops, galleries, paintings, art places, operas, theaters, all these should be in cities. Cities are cultural spaces. This is where you grow up every day, where you see what is happening. And the last one is linkage with community. I'm coming down because the youth grow up in the community. Unless the community is linked to all these heritage that you have, you will never be able to succeed. The biggest thing that you go when you go abroad, you see whether it's Greek monuments in Italy, in Spain, anywhere, the monument is linked to the community which lives around it. They get jobs there, they do the odd jobs, they do the treatment, they do the work. And so they have a stake in making sure that that heritage is well taken care of. That community, we have 3,684 monuments of national importance. So we should have 3,684 communities. Do we have that? So these are the things we need to create. I am not saying, I'm just saying what Praladji said. There are a lot of things we need to do, a lot of things we need to focus on. All these things, if we focus on, we will be able to make sure that we who have some of the largest repositories of heritage sites in the world, of intangible heritage, our cuisine is not in the World Heritage, intangible heritage. There are cuisine, Mediterranean diet is there, Chinese food is there, everything else is on the world. Indian cuisine with all its variety is not on the World Heritage, intangible heritage. So I'm not making complaints here on today. Today is a day for celebration. But I think we can all, if we work together, like Praladji said, all work together, we can make sure that what India does to tomorrow would be a reflection, and that we will be able to take our heritage and pass on a better heritage to our younger generations, who will appreciate what we do always. Without a rest, thank you very much and have a great meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dinesh, and we are not going to let you go that, so stay on. Some very valuable points you have raised, और एक बहुत important point जो आपने raise किया है, और उस पर मैं बुलाना चाहूंगी अपनी बहुत special guest शोभना नारायण जी को, because ना सिर्फ वो खुद पद्मश्री हैं पर वो गुरु भी हैं. You have talked about the need to teach. तो गुरु शिष्य की परंपरा को कितना उन्होंने आगे बढ़ाया है अपनी पूरी जिंदगी में, एक सिविल सर्वेंट रही हैं, पर साथ ही साथ कथक को उन्होंने एक अलग लेवल पर पहुंचाया है, और न सिर्फ इंडिया में बट अलग अलग देशों में वो लेकर गई अपने पूरे आर्ट फॉर्म को. आई एम श्योर यू नीड नो इंट्रोडक्शन मैम, बट आई स्टिल जस्ट मेंशन अ कपल ऑफ थिंग्स अबाउट यू. यू गॉट योर पद्मश्री वे बैक इन 1992. संगीत नाटक अकेडमी से आप नवाजी गई, और इतने अवार्ड्स, 39 नेशनल एंड इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड्स. उसके अलावा आपने 16 किताबें और न्यूमरस आर्टिकल्स लिखे हैं इंटैक्ट के लिए, यूनेस्को के लिए. आपने 16 कथक के गांव इस्टेब्लिश किए ईस्टर्न यूपी एंड बिहार में. ये बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धियां हैं. और आपने खाजुराहो पर एक टाइटल डांस ऑफ द टेम्पल्स पर एक फिल्म बनाई है उसके फिलोसॉफिकल एस्पेक्ट्स को लेकर. सो ये बड़ी आउटस्टैंडिंग अचीवमेंट्स हैं, एंड वी वुड लाइक टू नो फ्रॉम यू मैम, क्योंकि आप एक तरह से इंटरनेशनल सिटीजन हैं और यहाँ की धरोहर को आप बाहर इतना दर्शाया है आपने. व्हाट इज योर व्यू मैम कि इंडिया को एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम कैसे स्ट्रेंथन करना चाहिए अपने आप को इस पूरे स्पेस में?
नमस्कार. मैं सबसे पहले सभी को धन्यवाद देती हूँ और आज के विश्व विरासत दिवस पर बधाई भी देती हूँ. और जैसे माननीय मंत्री जी ने कहा और अभी दिनेश जी ने कहा, बिल्कुल वही बात मैं दोहराना चाहती हूँ. और जहाँ तक एज अ क्लासिकल डांसर हूँ, मैं सिर्फ कहूँगी कि हमारे यहाँ जो एक शायद हम लोग अपने आगे बढ़ने की चाव में भूल जाते हैं कि एक हमारी जो विरासत है वो कहीं ना कहीं से आती है, और उसकी जो खुशबू है, हमारी फिलॉसफी, हमारे जो भारतीय दर्शन शास्त्र की फिलॉसफी है, वहाँ के रहन सहन, खान पान, सोचने का ढंग और संगीत कला, नृत्य, सब कुछ हमारे नृत्य कला में निहित है. कहीं ना कहीं उसको हम उसको जीवित करते हैं. और इसी तरह से इतने सारे विभिन्न अंग आ गए. सिर्फ है कि आज नृत्य कला एक एंटरटेनमेंट हो गया है, हम उसके अहमियत को नहीं पहचान रहे. वो कि हमारी जितने भी हेरिटेज की बातें हम लोग कर रहे हैं, सबसे जुड़ी हुई हैं. क्यों, किस तरह से भूगोल, ज्योग्राफी इम्पैक्ट करता है, किस तरह से हमारे पेड़ पौधे और ये इम्पैक्ट करते हैं. हमारे लिटरेचर में, लिटरेचर किस तरह से हमारे कला के जरिए दर्शाया जाता है. मैं इसलिए कह रही हूँ कि, और मैं इसमें एकदम सहमत हूँ जो हमारे पूर्व वक्ता उन्होंने कहा कि एजुकेशन हमारे लिए और जो अवेयरनेस है वो घर से ही शुरू होता है, और वो घर घर से. और जब मैं यहाँ देखती थी वियना वगैरह में कि स्कूल कॉलेजेस से शुरुआत होती है कल्चरल एजुकेशन, कि हमारे वहाँ के जो साहित्यकार, संगीतकार, शायद हमारे यहाँ लोग संगीतकार नहीं जानेंगे. अगर हम किसी कोई अगर चीज कहूँ कि ललित लवंग लता किसका है, तो कहेंगे वो फलाने फिल्म का है, लेकिन वो यही नहीं कहेंगे कि ये जयदेव जी का लिखा हुआ है, संस्कृत भाषा में है. कालिदास के रचनाओं के बारे में हम कहेंगे कि ठीक है उसने फलाने ने फिल्म बनाया था, लेकिन कालिदास की रचना है किस तरह से. तो ये जो एक अवेयरनेस है कि हमारे यहाँ भास है, हर चीज वो हम क्योंकि आज का जो वर्तमान है वो पीछे हमारे वो रूट्स, एक फंडामेंटल रूट्स हमारे वहां से जुड़ा हुआ है, तभी तो हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. जितनी भी हमारी शास्त्रीय कलाएं हैं, कोई स्थायी एकदम स्थिर नहीं रह गई है पास्ट में नहीं रह गए हैं. It is a constant dynamic process. It is evolving and it is all linked. As our previous speaker said, that we have, each country has impacted each other's culture. We have also impacted other cultures. They have impacted us. आज जैसे मैं कथक की नृत्यांगना हूँ, और आज हम जब म्यूजियम जाते हैं, हम आंखों से देखते नहीं हैं, हम और हाथों से देखते हैं. भीमबेटका जब मैं जाती हूँ तो मैं देखती हूँ कि लोग हाथों से देखते हैं, आंखों से नहीं देखते, समझने की कोशिश नहीं करते. तो वो उसमें और किस तरह की वो नक्काशकारी है. जब हम बात करते हैं कि आज ऐसे है, ये कब आया, तो उसमें आप फिगर्स एक्सेट्रा देखना चाहते हैं. और मैं एज अ कथक कलाकार मैं कहूँगी कि बिहार म्यूजियम जो हमारी जो स्टैंडिंग मूर्तियां हैं, वो तो सिर्फ एक मिलेनियम पुरानी है, 1000 वर्ष 1100 वर्ष पुरानी है. लेकिन उसके पहले जितनी भी शिल्प कलाएं थी, मूर्ति कला, वो तो हमारी सब म्यूजियम्स में है. लेकिन शायद हम उस आंखों से नहीं देखते, और हम अपने जिस तरह से डांस भी डेवलप किया है उसको हम नहीं समझ पाते हैं. और मैं इसलिए कह रही हूँ कि एज अ कथक एक धारणा है कि हमारी कॉस्ट्यूम्स आज की हैं, लेकिन और शायद वो बहुत ही मध्यकाल की है कुछ चीजें. लेकिन अगर हम पटना म्यूजियम जाए और वहाँ की मूर्तियां देखें, तो देखें कि किस तरह से कंटिन्यूटी आती है, कि आदि काल, मौर्य काल से लेकर के आज वो कंटिन्यूटी दिखती है हमारे भंगिमाओं में, वेशभूषा में भी. तो जो वेशभूषा भी वही है आज भी जो पहले थी. तो मैं इसलिए कहेगी कि ये एजुकेशन अवेयरनेस घर से शुरू होता है और स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस से शुरू होता है. और दूसरी चीज है कि हर कम्युनिटी, जो कम्युनिटी पार्टिसिपेशन की बात मंत्री जी ने भी कहा और हमारे पूर्व वक्ता ने भी कहा, कि हर एक कम्युनिटी में, देखिए इतिहास में अच्छे भी थे, बुरे भी थे, हर किस्म के अप्स एंड डाउन्स थे, पॉजिटिव्स और नेगेटिव्स. लेकिन हमें उसको अपना के साथ चल के, नकारते हुए नहीं चलना है, सबको साथ लेकर के चलना है. क्योंकि आज जो हम हैं वो उसकी ही देन है. वो सब स्ट्रीम्स की, एकम सत विविधा बहुधा वदंती, वो सब स्ट्रीम्स को लेकर के चलना है. तो कम्युनिटी में भी अगर हम कम्युनिटी को रिस्पॉन्सिबल बना दें कि वहाँ की चीजें, उनकी कला, उनकी कल्चर, उनकी संस्कृति, उनके म्यूजिक, उनके, और वहाँ से जो उभरी हुई है, किस तरह से निकल के आ रही है शास्त्रीय नृत्य और संगीत कलाएं, और साथ ही साथ वहाँ की जो जितनी मूर्तियां हैं या जो भी आपके हेरिटेज, टैंजिबल हेरिटेज साइट्स है, उसको अगर उनको एक कम्युनिटी कीपर्स बना दे, उनको उसमें प्राइड दे, तो वो एक प्रॉफिट भी हो जाएगा, एक प्रॉफिट ऑफ कल्चर भी हो जाएगा. अभी तक हम लोग ने कल्चर को और या टूरिज्म को भी वो शायद हमें और भी इस पर तवज्जो देना चाहिए, एंड टेक इट एज अ प्रॉफिट, अ नेशनल एसेट एंड अ प्रॉफिट. बिकॉज अगर आज हम उसको मेंटेन करके रखते हैं, तो culinary tourism, heritage wildlife tourism, wildlife जो हमारे यहाँ भी हमने उनके communities को बचा के नहीं रखा, because they are the ones who are also interested in preserving that wildlife around there, because there is a sustainable development, there is there's a harmony of existence. So now I think all these aspects we need to do it, and each one is interconnected. Our previous speaker mentioned about flamenco. I do remember doing a project for the UNESCO at that particular point of time, कि how यहाँ के gypsies और if you see a close relationship, कि जो folk dance और folk arts के forms हैं और जो शास्त्रीय नृत्य के forms में आपको समानता मिलेगा. You will see a complete. How many of us know that even the Natya Shastra has talked about theater architecture? We we think of our theater architectures, the science of acoustics and lights all came in from the West, but actually these have all been discussed in the Natya Shastra. Now, I feel that, this aspect of even knowing certain details of our own culture should be there as part of a curriculum, but not in a way where, again, judiciousness has to be there so that it's equally balanced. We have to learn to appreciate, first of all, our own little community and our own, the heritage, the richness of the heritage of that little community. Each one has to take a pride. अगर उसमें अगर गर्व की बात महसूस होगी तो वही लोग हमारे रखवाले बन जाएंगे, वही लोग हम देखेंगे कि ये प्रिजर्व हो, नरिश हो और आगे बढ़े, क्योंकि और उसके so it is deeply rooted in the past, but our future is dependent on it. So the future, because we are talking about the future, and there the role of our youngsters come in, the role of the community comes in, the role of appreciation of other cultures. आज हम इसका एक little unit cannot even appreciate the culture of another unit. So we have to learn to appreciate even the neighbors and the culture, even within the one village to another village, and from different parts of India, as well as the cultures of the world. Because finally, wahi saat sur hai, wahi hai, और look at the range of harmonics we have. हमारे यहाँ रागदारी है, वही 7 सुर और वो 12 सुरों में हमारी 360 राग हैं, बिल्कुल. तो यही मैं कहूँगी कि we need to have community participation, we need to have education right from the school level, and learn to understand where our past comes from, so that we are where we are today, which is a mixture of the good and the bad, but that is what we are today, and therefore, and build on it to make a better tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am. That's such a beautiful thought, that civilization is a continuum. It's an ongoing process, and it builds on its past. All future is built on our past. And the need not to respect our own, but to also respect all other cultures. Unless we don't do that, that feeling of reciprocal respect will never develop. So I think that's a huge statement and a very, very positive message coming. But you also mentioned something in the beginning where I will take cue from, when you said, we need to know about our things, they need to educate. And we were having a discussion before this with Sudakshana Thampi, and I'd like to bring her in on that point, where she is a certified yoga instructor from the Samyak Yoga Institute in Mysore, and has had the distinction of being the part of the Honorable Prime Minister's inaugural International Day of Yoga in 2015. She's committed to doing what she does. And she mentioned before we started the session that, do we ourselves even know what yoga really means? Or has it just meant certain asanas? And if we look internally at ourselves, I think the kind of yoga studios or the appreciation of yoga and owning up actually was an awakening for a lot of us in India when it started happening more out of India. And I think there are a lot of things that need to be thought and pondered on in terms of learning about one's own heritage. So Dakshina, can I have you on that, as to, is yoga truly even understood, or is it just limited to some asanas and pranayams?
Thank you, Rupinder. This is something that I really, really wish to talk about. So whenever I think about India, and when I think about my culture and my heritage, what I'm most proud of, or what I connect with most, is the kind of high philosophy which is offered in our texts, whether it's Yoga Sutras, whether it's Yoga Vashishta, if it's Ashtavakra Gita, or even if it is just Bhagavad Gita. The philosophy that runs through these texts, very intangible, but the philosophy that runs through these texts are all synchronized, and they are at a very, very high level of consciousness. When I think about India and India's cultural identity or heritage, if you ask people from the south to the north, west to the east, you're going to get very, very different answers. There's no one cohesive idea about our spiritual heritage. But if you really look at yoga, right, it is so simple. I mean, everything says the same thing, but if you really look at the yogic text, it becomes very, very clear that what they're really trying to tell you is 8 parts on how to control the mind. It talks about how the universe is manifested, what the layers of universe are, and how to really hack into the universe, right? So really what I feel that is very important at this juncture is to really unify this idea of yoga and start communicating it to people. Because like you rightly said, people still see yoga as asana, they see it as pranayama, and they see it as dhyana. They completely, or they mostly completely lose out on the other 5 elements of yoga, which includes yamas, niyamas, pratyahara, dharana, and samadhi. So these are actually values that we are supposed to hold in our lives, like satya, like ahimsa, like shaucha. These things I feel have been completely missed by most people who are practicing yoga. And I believe that this is something that we need to start teaching our students very young. And it's so simple. There are only 10 things that you need to remember. And see, if you look at a country like Japan, okay, you look up to them and there is a sense of respect for the culture, the unified culture that they all hold, because they have been trained that way. They have been taught that way on what it is that they're supposed to stand for and how it is that they're supposed to behave. So similarly, why can't we teach our people our heritage of yoga, what it stands for, whether it's satya, whether it's, and I'm not just talking about asana, pranayama, dhyana, no, I'm talking about the values and the values and the disciplines that yoga, that you are supposed to hold as someone who's a part of this land that has brought this yogic culture or this yogic understanding into the world. And I also feel that, yeah, so I just feel that we should really start to teach our children the importance. And at a time when now the West is talking about how mind, the power of the mind and the power of thinking, so on and so forth, this is what yoga has been saying for 2000 years. We have been talking about consciousness and how, you know, the science of consciousness for 2000 years. And this is not something that most people understand. This is not something most people even put their mind to, because this is obviously not their field. But I believe that we need to start telling more and more people about the essence of what yoga really is, and to try and instill the pride of this high thought that existed in India from a very, very early stage. And I also feel that it is time for us to really reclaim our yoga, make it very vibrant, make it very young, make it very appealing to the international youth crowd. Now, when people are looking at taking yoga teacher training courses, they're mostly going to, and yoga teacher training has internationally has a board, which is the Yoga Alliance, which is based in the US. Now, these are the people giving the certificates to those people who are training as yoga teachers. So let us reclaim that and bring it back to India, and let us be a certifying authority that is of value, so that anyone coming out of India saying that, yes, I have a teacher training from India, is looked upon at 3 steps higher than when you're taking a teacher training from somewhere else. Let us look at having yoga youth festivals where we have international yoga teachers coming from everywhere, but holding the integrity of yoga, not just as asanas, but also the entire gamut of yoga. Let's start doing those things like the way Ayurveda has been marketed in Kerala. We have that in India as well. We have that for yoga as well. Let us try and push that, because there is really, really a lot of potential there. So yes, so that's really what I wanted to say. So one is
Thank you, Sachna. I think a very important message that India should be certifying the teachers for yoga, and we should not be in a situation where a yoga certification comes from somewhere else in the world. It's time to reclaim and time to own up a lot of wealth that actually belongs to our country. At this juncture, I'm going to call in Abhay Mangaldas. Abhay, as I already mentioned, is the founder and director of the House of MG and has also been a huge force in the Ahmedabad certification as India's first UNESCO World Heritage City. He's the managing trustee of Shreyas Foundation since 2010. He's also the advisor to the Ahmedabad chapter of the INTAC and doing a lot of other things. Abhay, your education is an MSc degree in mass communication, but you're doing very different things now. So in terms of classifying Ahmedabad as a heritage city, how do you think it has really changed how people now look at Ahmedabad and the whole need to preserve those lanes and by-lanes of Ahmedabad, and how does the pride generate in the citizens? Abhay, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Rupinder ji, Honorable Minister, and other panelists for inviting me here. And I'm happy to share a few of my views. I've been working on the ground since the last 20 years. And for those of you who don't know why Ahmedabad became World Heritage City, one of the universal values that was identified was the diversity of the architecture in the lanes that you just mentioned, which is entirely held in private hands. And there is public monuments as well, but primarily it's trusts and private hands. And it's unfortunate that because of whatever limitations that the government faces, there is minimal or none interaction between these custodians of these heritage buildings and the government. There is no consultation, there is minimal interaction, and there is no stakeholder say in the management of this heritage, which has resulted, unfortunately, in very little being done in the last 4 years. No doubt the government's intentions are very good. The policies it has announced are very good. The question is now for the lag between the intention and action. Now the action is lagging way behind, and hopefully at some juncture it will hold and match up. At this juncture, I would also like to point out, because we have the Honorable Minister here, that what is India? When you're talking about Indian, incredible India, there is a confusion. There is nothing like India in India, because India is a whole confluence of so many different states and languages and culture and small towns, etc., that really the custodians of heritage even today are in private hands with the erstwhile monarchy aristocrats, as well as the smaller businessmen and jamindars. Until today, these are the people who have the tangible heritage. They are the people who are safeguarding it. Again, for only till very recently, the Ministry of Culture and the ASI had very little interaction with these people. I represent the Indian Heritage Hotel Association and the Heritage Tourism Association, and between us we have over 350 properties all around India. So incidentally, we all know that when people come to India, 80% of the visitors, the foreign visitors, go only to the Golden Triangle. So for them, India is a Golden Triangle, or maybe Kerala and Goa. The only places that you can go to, whether it's the local traveler or the international traveler, when they want to see India, is the interiors of India. How many of you have ever thought of visiting places in the interior of India, like whether it's in Rajasthan or Gujarat, in villages? You will not find any 5-star hotels or any star properties whatsoever. You will find only heritage properties in these places. And who is supporting these heritage properties? These are the individuals who live in them primarily. So we're delighted to learn that recently Gujarat, again, the Gujarat model might take center stage. It has come out with the heritage policy for both homestays and hotels, heritage hotels. And we are hopeful that if since the national government has so many state governments all across India, if it can align their policy with the state policy, there could be a transformational change in the way heritage is managed, because eventually it will have to be left to private hands and not with the government. And this can happen if there is support from the state, and of course to the state from the center. And this is something that we have to really work on, and Rupinder ji has been very proactive in this, and I am happy about that. And with the support of the Honorable Minister, we may make strides with the Gujarat model. Once again, it might move forward. Of course, I would take this opportunity to also say that the airports all across that are coming up are the gateways to India. Unfortunately, the only heritage that you see in these airports built by international architects are stickers or paintings or some artifacts hung on the wall, but the building itself has no connection with India or the place where the person is landing. So when you're entering India and entering a gateway to a place which you're going to see, you're totally disoriented when you arrive at the airport. So this is the first place which we should seriously consider giving to with local advice, maybe involve Western architects, but now there are Indian architects with sensitivity who can participate in the whole airport program that is being forwarded by the central government. That airport should be the first place where thousands of people coming in and out should get their first glimpse of the heritage of the local place, not the national place. You can't see a Taj Mahal arriving in Ahmedabad. You should be seeing places in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat when you arrive in Ahmedabad. Heritage hotels in Ahmedabad. It's impossible on any online travel agent to find little places which are in villages on an online travel agent. So none of these online travel agents, you are able to advertise heritage hotels. So again, there is no ranking system for heritage hotels. When you go to a travel agent, when you ask for a star hotel, heritage hotels don't have star rating. We need to have a separate way of rating heritage hotels. So I think it is very much in the hands of the government with a very small initiative to try and align the center with the states, align the travel agents, the stakeholders uniformly, so that everybody coming to India get a similar message, a unified message about where they can travel, where are the heritage hotels, what category they are, what kind of services can you expect from them. And of course, if there are experts on the panel about culture and food and dance, etc. So every 300 kilometers, we have a different language, we have changing cuisine. There is nothing like Indian cuisine. So when people come to our restaurants, they get food from our own Maharajis who have been Maharajis for generations. When they come to our heritage hotel, they come to a building designed by craftsmen. No architect was there 60 years, 100 years ago. There were no architects. So all our buildings are built by craftsmen. And these are the craftsmen who hold the true heritage values, and we are losing them so fast because there is no proper way of combining contemporary with the local talent that we have. Is underrated. And I think that with the new policies that the government is announcing and its intentions, if they can bridge the gap of the lag in action with the policy, I think a lot can be achieved.
Thank you, Abhay. You've raised some really important points on how the government needs to work with all its stakeholders, especially when it comes to taking the heritage part of the built part of the heritage, so to say. And at this juncture, and you've also raised one more very important point as to what is India and what should be India to somebody coming into India. Should it just be the Golden Triangle, or going to a couple of other destinations that are more well known, or go and see those unexplored parts of India? There is so much to India. And that's where the responsibility of the government and all of us, in fact, comes forth, that भारत केवल वो 3 या 4 जगहें नहीं है, भारत में इतना कुछ है देखने और दिखाने के लिए, which is something that we all need to work on. And on that, I'm going to bring in Kritika Subramaniam. She is 60-100 साल पहले नहीं थे architect, but आज है. Kritika is an architect, and she is owning the Swatma Resort, a boutique luxury hotel in Thanjavur in Tamil Nadu. She is also deeply rooted third generation entrepreneur and a culture expert. She is an acclaimed classical Bharatanatyam and dancer, and she is also an expert on wellness aspects of Siddha Yoga and Ayurveda. Now, to you, my question, Kritika, is, and taking cue from what Abhay has raised, how to make India a repeat destination? Because if you're only going to showcase the Golden Triangle, then the traveler will think, "Maine to Golden Triangle dekh liya, so I'm done with India." How do we bring the different and the innumerable offerings that our beautiful country has? And also, how to keep the ancient part of us alive as a contemporary India? Because you want to be showcasing yourself at the same time such a modern country. And our Honorable Minister has, of course, mentioned it in earlier platforms on how we should take pride with the fact that despite our own problems, our country has been exporting vaccine to other countries which need it. We are a country that drives the Silicon Valley in the USA. So we are a very modern country, but we are also as ancient as it can be, with Varanasi as the oldest living city anywhere in the world. So how to bring the ancient into the modern, and how to make sure that India is not just seen as 5 or 6 or 10 places, but people, when they come to India, actually go to our villages, go to our small little places and experience the true India. Kritika? Kritika, you're on mute. Yeah. Kritika, you're on mute.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And, I'm really excited and happy to be part of this panel, because I feel as if I'm meeting, 12, 14 people who are all so congruent in their thinking. I think that itself is a, wonderful experience, because not enough people are thinking about heritage, as a subject. So it's a wonderful thing you all have done on World Heritage Day. Thank you, Minister ji. Pehle aapko bolna hai ki, thank you very much for making the time, for this panel discussion. So one of the things that I would like to mention is that we have to start with the education of people and make studying art, history, and culture very cool for the younger generation. Abhi kya ho raha hai ki by the time a child comes to grade 7 or 8, ye history padhne se kya hoga, geography history padhne se kya hoga, engineer banna hai tujhe, doctor banna hai tujhe, whichever part of the country, parents are pushing their children towards professional education of this variety of engineering, medicine, and making it so cool to be a doctor or an engineer, and not cool enough to be a historian. That has to be first, that has to be addressed first. Because I think there are functional professions, and then there are, professions that shape the country. And I think academics, we need more teachers who are motivated to teach art, history, culture. So for that, more and more youngsters should be prompted to pursue these fields of academic. So we need many more arts and science colleges. You see, I come from Tamil Nadu, and doctors in Tamil Nadu. Too many education institutions focused on this. So I wish we had many, many more arts and science colleges. Universities that only focus on the liberal arts. That is one of the things that's lacking in our country. So agar ministry se jyada wo liberal arts colleges, if they were encouraged, then more youngsters, and really premium institutions, where it's let's say very, very desirable to get into it, make it very, very tough to get into. So then, all the parents realize the value of that institution. I think that is one of the first things. So I think journalism, arts, art, history, like, one of them rightly pointed out, archaeology, classical arts, dance, music, all this has to be made into fantastic academic courses, which are highly desirable. Second thing is, heritage has to be made cool. I mean, I'm using the word cool because for youngsters at a very, at that impressionable age of 13 to 18, 19, they want to fit in with their peer groups. So mostly people are studying the classical arts. Like, if there are little children who are learning dance or music, when do they stop learning it? Is when they come to the age 13 or 14, when they feel the need in schools and colleges to fit into their peer group. At that time, if they're learning a classical art like dance or music, they sometimes feel uncomfortable because others are mocking them. And then they give it up. So I myself am a classical dance student since I was 7. I'm 47. I've performed all over the country. I've performed overseas as well. So a lot of people ask me, are you a dancer or are you an architect? Now, first, that has to be removed from society. Shobhana ji is a brilliant dancer and an overachieved, personality with so many different aspects to her personality. So why should people choose whether they have to be a artist or be a professional? Why can't we be many things? That's how Indians were by nature. Every Indian was an artist, a philosopher, an expert.
Right.
Why in India, today they say, are you a dancer or are you a professional? Why should you choose? Why can't every Indian go back to what our culture was? Everybody could do everything, right? They could also be a dancer and also be a politician, also be an academician. So that kind of multifaceted personality, we have to encourage our society to pursue.
Absolutely.
It has to be encouraged as a matter of thing. Then heritage will come back, to the younger generation. It will become very cool to be associated with heritage. Then one more thing which I feel is, there is a way in which, the modern music or modern, cinema or, all these kind of like Hollywood and all, how they are marketed. Today, everything is about media and social media and media where they push marketing into people's minds. So youngsters, when they're impressionable, there is a very, particular way in which products are marketed to youngsters in their impressionable minds. So should we about our heritage. We have to treat, there is a commoditization of, rap music or of rock music in a way in which, it is kind of pushed into people's minds when they are impressionable. So should be about our heritage. It should be a very intelligent, very thoughtful way in which it is designed to permeate the young minds when they are impressionable. So for this, we have to make it more tech friendly. Today, you can't take technology away from youngsters. See, I published a book, and it's a book on Tanjavur. So we designed the book, and we designed the book to be an reading experience similar to an online surfing experience. Because today, when youngsters surfing the internet, they have 5 windows open. Okay, on a screen. Typically, they'll have 5 windows open. So one window will be showing them photographs. Then suddenly from that photo, they'll jump into something which is, written text. If they can't understand a word, then they'll go into a literature page and they'll Google that word. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a very dynamic experience that they get from surfing the internet. So a lot of heritage books need to shift to that mode of publishing, where a youngster feels like picking up the book and reading it.
Right. That's a very valid point coming from you, Kritika. I am going to, carry forward from that point, because we'll try and come back on the need for digital learning, especially for the new generation, on how to bring in new technology. I think that's a very, very valid point you have made on how to make sure कि heritage हर रोज आपकी जिंदगी का एक हिस्सा हो. At that point, I'm going to bring in Shailaja Katot. She's from the princely state of Sailana near Ratlam in Madhya Pradesh. But, and she of course published a very famous book, Cookery book, Cooking Delights of the Maharajas, which was written by her grandfather, महाराजा दिग्विजय सिंह जी. But अब आप कांगड़ा में रहती हैं and you have near the oldest gated fort, ASI का monument है कांगड़ा में, जिसके पास आपने एक म्यूजियम बनाया है. And how that museum has become a place जो कि whoever goes there एक mandatory हो गया है उसका वहाँ travel करना. So how did you think of it and what do you think about doing many more such projects in India?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I got married in Kangra and I was amazed because India is so diverse. And I was amazed by the food, the culture, the history, the miniature paintings. I think even the Kangra tea was, it was different, whether it was the pickles. So I just got enamored by the whole thing. And my husband was passionate about, our family fort, the Kangra fort was with the Archaeological Survey of India, but he was very passionate about making it, a destination, a tourist destination. So we decided to take out all our saman from the stores and we opened this museum, but there was nobody coming to it. So then we thought about it further. We said, how do we make it reach? How do we get people to come in? And, we decided to work with the travel industry. So I think tourism and culture work hand to hand. If we can work with the tourism industry and heritage, culture and tourism industry, they work very well together. One of the first companies that I went to was Kony. And that's when I met Loveleen. And I gave a presentation on my museum and they loved it. So I went from one travel company to the other giving presentations about my museum, but there was something lacking. And that is when there was an audio guide company which had just come into India, Narrowcasters. And they were really pushing the audio guides. And my husband met them and he found it very interesting. So we started audio guides in English, Hindi and Tibetan because Kangra being close to Dharamshala. And so there was a big Tibetan culture also. So our main aim initially was, yes, of course, tourists, but at the same time, we were very clear that we would want the locals also to be part of it. We would want the Indians, the domestic market also to be part of it. And audio guides brought in that spark. It was like listening to a Hollywood film. So now when, last year, in spite of COVID, when we were allowed to open the museum, we had children from all age groups. We had university kids, we had the locals, we had domestic tourism, which kept the museum going and paying our bills. Then we opened a cafe, which made it all the more interesting. We have a Kangra miniature gallery promoting the Kangra artists, who are from generations who, their forefathers painted Kangra miniatures and now the descendants. It was a dying art. So with the art gallery, we have a lot of, workshops where can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So there's a whole lot of, work. So the miniature workshops happen there. Kangra, the Dham was a temple cuisine. Kangra food is predominant vegetarian. I come from Selana where the food is predominant non-vegetarian. But I'm a vegetarian. So I tasted the food and I loved it. Now there is a company called Royal Fables run by Mrs. Anshu Khanna. And she promotes a lot of heritage, whether it's cuisine, art, whatever. So she started inviting us to do, with a number of other royal families, how to do food festivals, reaching out to people from all over the country and having these food festivals in all the major cities. And Kangra food got a lot of appreciation. In fact, when we launched the museum, I invited a lot of food critics also, and they gave me that push. Through the museum cafe, we have the Kangra Thali and people appreciate it. And when they want a course, we give them a food course also. So there is they're learning how to cook Kangra food. They're learning how to paint Kangra miniatures. So you have a whole day museum tour. The audio guide is for an hour. So, when we talk about youth, how do we appeal to the youth? I think that audio guide just appeal to them. And, having workshops, having something interesting to do, just coming, chilling out at the cafe, it just makes it a whole new experience for them. And that just worked. I have encouraged my brother to do that in Selana. And it is, he's taking it seriously. And
so this is an example जहाँ पे आपने अपने लिए भी एक बिजनेस भी सेटअप किया और लोकल लोगों के लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी जनरेट हुई और हेरिटेज भी प्रिजर्व हुआ. So it is such a wonderful model. We'll try and come back to you in a bit if we have the time. I still have 3 more people with me on the panel who I would want them to share their experiences. Community की अगर बात करें तो बॉम्बे में रहते हैं हर्षवर्धन, and Harsh, you have been working with a lot of communities, and tourism is lot about employment, and tourism is a lot about local employment, and employment के साथ साथ ही धरोहर को किस तरह से प्रिजर्व किया जाए, और जिस तरह से एक लोकल गाइड, एक लोकल रहने वाला इंसान अपने एरिया को दर्शा पाता है, बाहर से आने वाला कभी नहीं कर सकता. आपका इसमें क्या एक्सपीरियंस है, and what would you like to share with the panel?
Firstly, thank you so much, Rupinder, for giving me this opportunity to come out in front of so many, interesting people with such interesting views. And I agree. I think the congruence of the views are very, very similar. When I look at, heritage in terms of where we stand today, I completely agree with Ritika. I think the word cool is incredibly important because we need to get the youth involved. And I think when the youth get involved, I think you're becoming a future positive sort of an industry, right? And I think it's critical because still right now when we see, I think there is a lot of aged professionals that are there, which are doing a great job. But I think when the youth come in, I think there is a hope for the future. And a lot of people have also spoken about the fact that, the culture needs to start very, very young. And for people to be interested in it, I think the base starts off when you're young. And I want to go back and talk to you a little about, my personal story in my school. I came from a school which had various communities that, were there, whether they were Parsis, whether they were the Boris, right? There were the Koli community, there were also the Dalits. And, there was a teacher of ours who would take some time and, on one day in the history lesson, what she would do is she would call one student to talk about their heritage, right? Or where they come from or where they've come from, just to give a understanding of how diverse this city is, right? And it was diverse because of the fact that there was so much trade that went on. Dinesh ji said that, it's all about shared heritage. And when you look at a city like Bombay, especially, right, you have the Portuguese influence with the East Indians, right? You've got the Bora influences that started from Egypt, came out from Yemen into Bombay, right? You have Judaism that exists and people didn't even know about what a kosher meal is. So there, just the conversation about it, I think instilled a certain pride. And what we lack sometimes is that, we go internationally, we go around, we do such amazing experiences and we come back and sometimes we take our own culture and our own heritage for granted, right? We don't kind of go and explore that space. And I think now with the COVID thing coming in, I think people are going there and trying to figure that out. But still, heritage has always, not been something that people want to kind of look in and, explore. Of course, stays, there is the food that people talk about, and that's the cool phenomenon, right? But it's part of heritage, and cultural heritage with food is very, very important. So it's really, really integral because I think what tourism gives is an avenue for people not only to be proud of their culture, but also preserve it. And I think preservation of culture is important because I think every single day, when you look at food history or you look at cultural history or you look at even monumental history, we're losing out on a bit of it every single second. And that pride needs to be instilled when, you get acquainted to what your cultural ethos is, right? I'll give you an example, a tour that we do, which is in a small little area. And I think Dinesh ji spoke about how, you create cultural spaces. There's a space called Worli Village that has got a Koli history. And there is a beautiful Koli artist who actually merges the new and the old that come together. So what that happens is that you not only are trying to, talk about heritage, but also link it to pop culture. So you suddenly make it very, very relevant for the youth to sit down and say, oh my God, there's an aha moment every single time we do a tour saying, oh God, is this part of what our heritage and what our culture is, right? And it's incredibly important because, you know, we've had historically, when you look into Bombay's past, we've had shipbuilders like the Wadias who at one point in time were the best shipbuilders you could ever see, right? In the top 5 probably shipbuilders in the world. In fact, a very interesting trivia is that the HMS Minden, on when Francis Scott Key actually wrote the American national anthem, sitting on a boat that was made by an Indian, right? So it just suddenly just makes you understand that, you know, your heritage is such an integral part of also world phenomenon. Or the fact that, you know, the American Civil War that happened in the US actually made sure that the, you know, the mill culture in this city evolved, which gave birth to so many different cultures coming in. So a political event that's happened thousands of miles away actually affected India. And suddenly when you start actually kind of looking at heritage and looking at the stories of heritage, you realize that, hey, you know what, we are really important contributing factors to not just the history of a country, but the history of the world. And that's where the pride really needs to come in. And we need to really get the youth to look at this pride and say that, yes, I think the heritage is critical. I am an engineer, right? Guilty as someone, you know, said before, going the cliche path. But I think probably that incident in my childhood that kind of made me get up and talk about my history and my culture in that classroom. I don't know how much that helped, but at my subconscious level, probably that put heritage and culture to the fore. And, you know, that love for me is something that's, you know, if we can kind of create that similar sort of a cultural pride for people in communities, not only do they pride it, not only do they preserve it, but they also, you know, pass it on to the next generation. And I think that's the beauty of preserving cultural heritage. You know, the idea is that through, you know, making heritage very, very popular, I think it needs to go down towards everything that people have said. I think starting with, you know, finding the right resources, getting the right people involved, and having the right conversations, right? And that is
young, starting it interesting, making it digital, making it fun,
right? Imagine if I had to sit down, put on a VR headset, if I was sitting down in front of Gateway of India, where there are thousands of people that come every day. But if I had a VR headset that took me back in the time when it was being constructed, and if that empanelment gives, I mean, if the government gives me a platform to do that, suddenly what happens is that people are looking at tech and tourism as one thing. And then people are coming out and saying, hey, you know what, this is really, really, for the lack of better word, again, I come back to saying very, very cool, right? And you know, when I do that, it's suddenly the world just, the world of heritage suddenly just comes to light. You know, a lot of conversations on heritage and food have happened, and I'm so glad, because through that, I think people are preserving a little bit of their, you know, heritage in a way.
To move on, but Harsh, it's also exciting, you know, one gets totally absorbed into it. But I'm going to go to my next panelist today. You know, this is when we were making the panel, and this is the story of India. When you start making a short panel, you just can't, because there's so much to talk about in India, and that's reflected in the size of our panel today. So I'm needing to therefore push conversations. I'm going to call in Dr. Shruti Podar. She's a Nada Yoga specialist, and of course she wears very different hats. She's a spiritual teacher, educationist, heritage conservationist, a teacher of ancient wisdom and indigenous knowledge, sciences, and systems. And she has had the distinction of being the only individual entrepreneur to have won the prestigious FICCI Award for special contribution to travel and tourism industry. Shruti, welcome on this panel. And you've been hearing everyone else talk about the need to start young, the need to, you know, own up our heritage and culture the way we need to, and pass it on to the next generation. What do you think needs to be done, and how would you take the India story forward?
Yeah, so I think everything begins from us first. So we can't do anything until we are completely infused with heritage ourselves. So basically, in fact, I was in the UK about 9 years ago, and I suddenly had this moment when I said all the learnings, all the global experiences have to go to the grassroots of India. And my search led me to this amazing wonderland of heritage called Ramgarh Shekhawati, which is in northwest Rajasthan, a place which had the highest per capita income in 1900. Now, when you enter a place like that, and there are hundreds of places like that, you are entering a Pandora's box. You enter a world of heritage that has been forgotten for 100 years. And when we talked to I got quite close to the government, the Rajasthan government, and we were doing something about this. They said, what can we do? Heritage is about. Not just sites, not just tangible heritage, but intangible knowledge. The world of Vastu, the world of Ayurveda, the world of art, the art history on the walls. There is just over the last 8 years, I just want to give a little brief. We had a heritage walk to build new roads, signages. We have done a lot.
Dr. Shruti, we are not really getting good audio from you.
Is as some clear things. Nothing is amount of ground heights.
Dr. Shruti, I think we will go back to Dr. Shruti perhaps later. Loveleen, if I may bring you in at this point of time, you have been managing the Destination Knowledge Center initiative, which is a dynamic team of young explorers across India. And that's what India needs. India needs a lot of good storytelling. India needs a lot more to carry the whole narrative forward. What do you think about that part, and how do you think tourism can therefore become an incredible employment generator in India using the vast heritage that we have?
Rupinder, thank you first of all for inviting me, and to the Honorable Minister here. Tourism is one of the largest employment generations, as we know, globally, and even so in India. And SITA, which is the company that I work for, Travel Corporation of India, is one of the largest employers of tourism travel professionals in the destination management space. And we look after tourists coming into India in the inbound space. So we cater largely to the foreign tour operators who come. And the primary aim of our company is to showcase the lesser known intangible heritage of India that covers not just the well-trodden cultural paths, but its intertwined complex heritage enriched by overlapping of various indigenous and foreign cultures over a period of time. As many speakers have spoken about the scope of this, and you're talking about the Destination Knowledge Center that we set up a few years ago. That was primarily to showcase this experiential part of India, the experiences that India has to offer that are not just a monument. So we set up a bunch of explorers joined us to kind of explore even the well-trodden paths. You know, Abhay spoke about just doing the Golden Triangle and people not getting out of it. So I want to say here, even if a tour operator or a destination management company is doing the Golden Triangle, how can we make a difference in showing people the cultural aspects of a city? For instance, in Agra, our primary aim was to start with the Golden Triangle. What can we show in Agra that is not just the Taj Mahal? There is so much culture in Agra that we can show. There's the Pietra Dura, the inlay work, the artisans, the bazaars, and other hidden monuments that are there. So to that aspect, I want to also just add to all the conversation that's going on. On a positive note, there is a lot of digital literacy happening, and there are a lot of young people doing brilliant work. The Heritage Lab is a small company set up by a few art historians from Chandigarh, and they are getting our museums online. So I believe the Bihar Museum is online now, and they do a lot of workshops in educating children about the artistic heritage of India. So this is brilliant, and they contemporize it and adding the digital aspect to the art, and they have online quizzes, and they do a brilliant job of it. And I also want to add here that a lot of the experienced providers that we work with in various cities, like Harsh, for instance, they are people, they are professional people from different walks of life who kind of left their traditional careers to showcase the local heritage. So I think that is a huge plus point. So we have such like-minded people in Hyderabad, in Bombay, not just in Bombay, but also in Mysore. In practically every city, there are these beautiful local people who showcase their heritage. So as someone rightly said, people are very important in showcasing the intangible heritage of a country. And I think as a destination management company and as a tour operator, that's our job to kind of showcase that to the tourists.
Absolutely. People make a country, and it's the people who really drive everything about a country. And tourism is all about people, because हम कितना भी virtually connect करें, क्योंकि अभी ज़रूरत है, but जो आमने सामने बैठने की जो warmth generate होती है of actually being together, वो match नहीं की जा सकती. So we are coming to the end of our first round of discussion with all our panelists. And at this juncture, मैं माननीय मंत्री जी, because हमारे साथ बने हुए हैं पूरे समय से, सर आपकी प्रतिक्रिया जानना चाहेंगे. बहुत सारी बातें कही गई हैं एजुकेशन पे, स्पेशली बहुत सभी का झुकाव है कि जल्दी छोटी उम्र से पूरे धरोहर के बारे में सिखाना बताना बहुत जरूरी है. सर आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इन सब बातों पर?
पहले तो मुझे लगता है कि आपको बधाई, और जो पैनल सिलेक्ट हुआ है वो सबने अपनी लगभग दिशा सबकी एक है. नई शिक्षा नीति में जो अपेक्षा की गई है कि कम उम्र की आयु के लोगों के साथ हमारे संस्कृति का जितना भी हमारा विरासत है, उसका वास्तव में जो उम्र का बताया गया है कि 7 साल से 14 साल या 8 साल से लेकर 13 साल तक, इस बीच में हमको अपनी बातों को स्पष्ट करना होगा. और नई शिक्षा नीति में इसका प्रावधान है. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, अभी भूगर्भीय जो हमारा पुरातत्विक स्थान है या बायोडाइवर्सिटी के जो हमारे स्थान है, उनको भी वास्तव में उनको भी हमने चिन्हित नहीं किया है. मैं जब कमेटियों में रहा हूं तो वो एक अनुभव है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि ठीक दिशा में चर्चा हुई है. मैं सारे जितने भी हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं उन सबको इधर से बधाई दूंगा. और 2 अनुभवी लोग हैं, डॉक्टर शोभना नारायण जी जैसे, जिनने वास्तव में जिनका व्यक्तित्व नई जनरेशन के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है, जो अपने पदों के लिए बहुत भागदौड़ में लगे हुए हैं. उनको उनसे सीखना होगा कि वास्तव में कला एक अलग चीज है और जो हमारा डेजिग्नेशन है वो अलग बात है, और दोनों को मिलाकर भी हम आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. ये चीजें नई जनरेशन के लिए प्रेरणादायी होंगी. और मुझे लगता है कि बहुत सारी चीजें मैंने लिखी भी हैं, और कोशिश करूंगा कि संस्कृति मंत्रालय भी, क्योंकि चीजें आई हैं वो संस्कृति और शिक्षा मंत्रालय से जुड़ी हुई है, और भारतीय संस्कृति को अगर प्रतिबिंबित करना है तो उन सब चीजों को एक साथ हमको लेना होगा. टूरिज्म मिनिस्ट्री के इस प्रयास के लिए मैं बधाई भी देता हूं और सबको हृदय से धन्यवाद भी देता हूं. मुझे लगा कि बैठना चाहिए और सुनना चाहिए, और इसलिए मैंने बाकी बातों को नोट भी किया है. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सबका.
सर क्योंकि हमें मौका मिला है आपको बिठाने का, और आपसे 2-3 और बातें पूछना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि वो सवाल बहुत लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि आने वाले समय में जो वर्चुअल रियलिटी और जो डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करके हम अपने मॉन्यूमेंट्स को, श्राइन्स को, मंदिरों को अगर दिखा पाए, तो उसकी तरफ सर आपका राय जानना चाह रहे हैं बहुत सारे सुनने वाले.
मुझे लगता है कि देश से सच्चाई को जाने कि जो हमारे म्यूजियम्स हैं वो 7 से 8% तक कई चीजों को डिस्प्ले कर पाते हैं. अगर हम वर्चुअल तरीके से ही लोगों को बताएं तो मुझे लगता है ये बेहतर होगा, और उसकी तैयारी में मंत्रालय लगा भी है. लेकिन ये सच्चाई है कि 2 लोगों ने ये बात कही है बड़ी जिम्मेदारी से. जैसे एक एयरपोर्ट में अगर कल्चरल स्पेसेस हम बनाएं, अगर अहमदाबाद का एयरपोर्ट है तो हम गुजरात के तमाम बातों को सिंबॉलिक रूप से वहाँ ओरिजिनल फॉर्म में भी रखें. डिजिटल फॉर्म में तो रखें फोटोग्राफ्स के साथ साथ हम कुछ चीजें आर्टिफैक्ट्स को भी वहां पर रखें. और मुझे लगता है कि हमें उन तथाकथित पुराने नियमों से बाहर आना होगा कि वहाँ CISF की सुरक्षा ही बड़ा मुद्दा होता है. तो मुझे लगता है ये प्रयोग किए जा सकते हैं. दूसरा जो डिजिटल फॉर्म की बात है, तो जितने भी हमारे म्यूजियम्स हैं वो सारे सैचुरेशन पर है और 7 से 8% से ज्यादा हम डिस्प्ले नहीं कर सकते। अगर हम गैलरीज बनाना शुरू करें तो हमको कम से कम 20 साल लग जाएंगे, यदि हम तब भी शायद हम 80-90% डिस्प्ले पर पहुंच पाएंगे। तो बेहतर होगा कि हम उनका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करें और वर्चुअल तरीके से सामने लेकर आए। शोभना जी ने जो बात कही है कि जो उनकी परंपराएं हैं और जो थॉट्स हैं, चाहे वेशभूषा हो या भोजन हो, हमने किसी भी चीज को अभी तक दुनिया को बता ही नहीं पाया कि हमारे राज्यों में कितने प्रकार के भोजन, कितनी प्रकार की वेशभूषा। आपको ध्यान होगा महाराज जी, तो मैंने जब अंग वस्त्र के लिए खाली एक बार वर्चुअल तरीके से मैंने इनिशिएट किया था, तो देश भर से इतने सारे फोटोग्राफ्स आए थे। हम उनको अगर एक जगह पर रख ले तो हमारी हर चीज में विभिन्नता है। और जैसे मैं उन्होंने कहा कि मैं किसी टाइमलाइन में किसी को छोड़ने का समर्थक नहीं, लेकिन टाइमलाइन को करेक्ट करने की बात मैंने कही है। और इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ कि मैं इन बातों से सहमत हूँ जो पूछा गया मुझसे।
धन्यवाद सर। सो आई थिंक हम इस बात से पैनल को आज समाप्त करेंगे, लेकिन जाने से पहले सबको फिर याद कराना चाहेंगे कि राष्ट्रीय संग्रहालय की तरफ से क्यूरेट और डेवलप किया गया है ऑनलाइन एग्जीबिशन ऑन रामायण द एपिक बाय महर्षि वाल्मीकि जी। तो उसको वर्चुअल रूप में जरूर देखें। उसके लिंक्स हमारे वेबसाइट्स पे, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर के वेबसाइट पे भी रहेंगे और उसको विजिट करें। इस तरह के प्रयास होते रहेंगे आने वाले समय में। यही आज की हमारे सबके लिए एक सीख है, लर्निंग है कि बहुत सारी धरोहर है हमारे देश के पास और ऐसे ही नहीं कहा गया है इसको अतुल्य भारत, लेकिन उसको किस तरह से संजो के रखना है, किस तरह से दुनिया के सामने उसे रखना है, प्रिजर्व करना है, ये हम सब पर निर्भर है। ना सिर्फ कि सरकार में काम करने वालों के लिए ये दायित्व है, पर ये हर भारतीय नागरिक का दायित्व है कि वो अपनी धरोहर को बचा कर रखे, संजो कर रखे और इस तरह से दुनिया के सामने दिखाए, दर्शाए कि हम सब एज भारतीय प्राउड फील करें that we are Indians. We are very proud, but I think we need to work furthermore towards it. So I want to thank each of the panelists for joining us in this absolutely engaging, wonderful session. And thank you so much to the Honorable Minister for staying with us for the entire period, which I think is also a compliment to all the panelists कि आप की बातों में इतना रुझान पैदा हुआ सबके लिए और बहुत अच्छा लगा आप सबसे बातें करके और आगे चल के भी ये प्रयास जारी रहेंगे। So once again, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।